Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, I've noticed that people think these days that you have to be perfect to succeed. If you make a mistake, if you have a temper tantrum, it's on Twitter in 5 minutes, right? It's all over the net. You're getting emails about it, right? Perhaps perfection is a fake construct, right? Let's just look at U.S. presidents, right? Perhaps the best president in history, certainly on the short list, Abraham Lincoln, suffered from melancholia, right? That's what they called it in the 19th century. Today we would call it depression. That's right, a president with depression led the United States through the Civil War. Right? Google it. Don't believe me. Ulysses S. Grant, many claim, was a functioning alcoholic. Right? They actually claim that Lincoln knew Grant was an alcoholic when Grant was a great general, but that Lincoln let an alcoholic lead the Union Army. Jack Kennedy suffered from Graves' disease, was on steroids, had a bad back, needed pain-killing shots at times to deal with a chronic condition. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, many claim, was a functioning alcoholic, but yet he's the man who leads the United Kingdom through World War II. Some professions, you'll notice the heartache a little bit more than in others, right? Musicians and singers, for example. There are too many emotional car crashes and stories there to mention, right? Let's just say people like Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Keith Moon had ups and downs, right? In terms of the stories, they're crazy, right? Did Bobby Womack really marry Sam Cooke's wife so soon after Sam Cooke's murder? Comedians, same type thing. Folks on top of the world, Freddie Prinze, right, decides life's not worth living. Some of the most blessed comedians have had emotional problems, right? Comedians tend to talk about the distress in their lives. Some of their routines leave you with your mouth open, right? Another profession where heartache comes to the surface more than we want to admit is the sport of boxing, right? There have been many guys who've suffered a lot of heartache. Sometimes you don't hear the stories until years later, right? One of the all-time greats, Ray Leonard, boldly has talked about how he was a victim of child molestation. In my opinion, for purposes of this video, two of the absolute best fighters in the world, right, have emotional issues. Tyson Fury, who I picked over Vladimir Klitschko, and keep in mind, I'm not picking Anthony Joshua over Vladimir Klitschko. I think Tyson Fury on his A game is the world's best heavyweight, I'll agree. Since he's been out of the ring, it's going to be a long road back for him. But Tyson Fury is one of the best in boxing. So too is Adrien Broner. Now I know Broner had a public meltdown, and unfortunately, this is the world we live in, right? I'm sure there's some of you who have text messages or Twitter messages who, the press now can pull up what he said when he was having a down mood that had some people around him thinking that Broner might be suicidal, right? Maybe he might be suicidal. But that doesn't mean that Adrien Broner's A game gets beaten by too many people. Let's be clear on Adrien Broner here. He's only lost twice. Only lost twice. Once was to Marcus Maidana. Now I need to have people understand how tough Marcus Maidana is. Just go back and look at his fight against Victor Ortiz. Maidana's a guy who gets decked, who's on the verge of getting blown out, and will get off the canvas, dust himself off, and will get back deep in the pocket, throwing power shots. Right? Maidana, his mental toughness was never an issue. Never. Right? He fights Floyd Mayweather. I thought he lost both fights. But let's just say the bright lights didn't intimidate him. He came after Floyd, didn't he? He was aggressive, wasn't he? Right? The other fighter Broner lost to me, is one of the more underrated fighters today. And that's Shawn Porter. Right? Two guys who I personally consider to be very mentally tough. Porter's a guy who I've seen show up to more than one press conference. And while the other guy is talking smack to him, the Broner press conference before their fight, right? While the other guy is talking smack to him, saying, hey, your father's taking your money, your father's driving a better car than you, what are you doing? You know, you're being exploited by a family member and all this other stuff, explosive stuff, with his father there. His father's one of boxing's better trainers, Kenny Porter. Right? Shawn Porter is the kind of guy who's grounded enough to turn to a member of the press when they stick a mic in his face as he's getting abused, and to just calmly say, you know, we're not about that. We're better than this. You know, he's not a guy who really gets into a lot of trash talk. So let's just say Broner has lost to two of the more mentally tough guys, in my opinion, in the sport of boxing. Now, I've criticized Broner here online because this is a gambling site. Because if I were to look at Usain Bolt, the world's best sprinter, I would point out that Usain Bolt out of the blocks isn't that great in terms of his start. Right? If I were to talk about LeBron James here, perhaps the best basketball player in the world, right, I would talk about the fact that LeBron's outside shot not automatic. Right? It's not Durant level. Right? We look at the best here and we break them down. Broner has a style made for being deep in the pocket. His legs are wide apart. In my opinion, he's a bit flat-footed. So he wants to compare himself to Floyd Mayweather. He's not Mayweather because Mayweather's much more mobile than him. Mayweather operates on the balls of his feet, doesn't have his legs as cemented to the canvas as Adrien Broner does, is much more mobile than Adrien Broner. Right? Broner, when Maidana collapses the pocket, Broner couldn't move away. Right? Even an older Floyd was able to move away from Marcus Maidana. Right? That said, understand, because Broner's style is made for being deep in the pocket, when he fights a guy who lives deep in the pocket, I believe Broner is going to have the advantage because Broner is that talented. And I believe Adrian Granados is a guy who wants to live deep in the pocket. Right? Now first, let's talk about these two guys. Granados used to be the chief sparring partner for Broner. Broner used him in the preparation for the Maidana fight. Think about that. So here you're talking about Broner knowing his opponent. Right? Granados also knows Broner. This fight is not really going to pick up in the first round, is it? It's really going to pick up in the 6th or 7th round because these guys have been in the ring together. Now, Granados is very much like Adrien Broner. Very good right hand from up high. Very similar to Maidana. Right? He likes to be deep in the pocket. He has a two-handed attack. He's willing to trade. Here's the difference between him and Broner. When Adrien Broner is on his game, simply put, he is one of the best defensive fighters in boxing. Right? His body's like body armor. He knows how to get pieces of it between your punch and him. He has you hitting his bicep. He has you hitting his shoulder. What you're not hitting is his jaw, his face. Right? You can't hit him where he can get hurt. Adrian Granados, in my opinion, gets hit. Right? Granados ends up in what I call tough man contests. Right? Where it's his will against the other guy's will. That's not Broner. Broner is more of a surgeon. Broner's doing on to you as he's blocking your shots coming back at him. Broner has a certain level of slickness that, in my opinion, Adrien Granados is going to have a problem with. I think the added problem, too, is the fact that Granados is taller than Broner. That's going to give Broner a chance to actually bend down, make it even harder for Granados as Broner gets deeper and deeper in the pocket where he wants to be. Let's face it too, Broner coming in from a lower angle is even more dangerous because Broner has a great uppercut for those up close moments. Also, Broner's game is kind of, an advanced game. He's starting on third base. You have a hand up, right? You're protecting yourself like this, like I expect Adrien Granados to do. Broner, like James DeGale, can change the angles on his punches. So Broner is not throwing the same left hook and hitting your hand or your glove. No, Broner can arc it so it hits your temple behind your guard. Right? Broner also is a wicked body puncher, especially with his left hand. Now, I believe of all the fights on Broner's resume, all of them, I'll be surprised if the one he doesn't remember the most is the Marcus Maidana fight, because Maidana beat him in his neighborhood, deep in the pocket. Right? Porter, I think Broner knows, used the ring, moved around the ring. Right? He brought a different style into the ring that Broner just wasn't ready for. Maidana, by contrast, came at Broner, was up on Broner. Broner couldn't figure out the angles and got destroyed. I believe Broner is going to be on a mission to correct that. Right? I know he had a mental dust-up several weeks ago. Okay, fine. I believe he's focused now. Right? He's going to be on a mission to avenge his loss to Marcus Maidana against the sparring partner who mirrors Maidana's style, who he used in preparing for the Maidana fight. Broner knows that Granados doesn't move too well. Broner will be able to find him, unlike Sean Porter, right, who was able to outmaneuver Broner, whose legs are too far apart. And Broner is elite defensively against in-the-pocket fighters like Adrian Granados. Now, I know there's some here online who are predicting an upset in this fight. I'm not one of them. I like Adrien Broner here to win the fight. Make no mistake. While I've picked against Broner in some fights, by the way, I did pick Broner over Maidana. I was wrong on that. But I did take Sean Porter over Broner, right? While I have picked against Broner at times in the past, just understand that I myself know that against certain styles, Broner is almost unbeatable, right? I want to encourage people to revisit Broner against John Molina, right? Molina, big puncher, wants you in front of him. Adrien Broner says, all right, I'll be in front of you for stretches of this fight. Folks, it was a bad mismatch, right? You can question a lot of things about Adrien Broner. Don't question his in-the-pocket talent. I like Adrien Broner over Adrian Granados. The only chance Granados has of winning this fight is by stoppage. If you want to hedge, I like Broner to win. Hedge with Granados by KO. That's how I see the fight. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.